Hello, Play for Performance listeners. I'm so glad you were able to join us today. We have a special guest. Our podcast is dedicated to transforming workplaces through play and creativity. Today, we're honored to have Jeff Abracen with us. Jeff is a communication and storytelling coach, creative consultant, and creative director with over 2 decades of experience in crafting concepts that convert. He has collaborated with global brands such as 3M, PepsiCo Foods, Nivea, Pfizer, Durex, and Mucinex to tell stories that stand out. Jeff specializes in disruptive storytelling and creative strategy, blending levity with directness to deliver insightful and engaging content. As the host of the Disruptive Influence podcast, he continues to influence and shape the way professionals communicate and innovate. We're excited to explore how Jeff leverages creativity to enhance performance and drive meaningful change in the workplace. Jeff, we're so glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about you.
Where did you get that wonderful intro?
Isn't that great? You're welcome. I got to tell all the great things about my guests. Tell us
Th-
about you.
Thanks for that. What else do you want
Yeah.
to know on top of what we just said?
All of it. Like what led you to communications and storytelling? How did you get into that space?
So here I am, a long time. I showed you some action figures before we
You
got
did.
on, right? Like
You
you even
did.
make Legos of your guests. So
I
I've
do.
been a big fan of storytelling for my whole life. I thought I was actually going to be a comic book artist. So I definitely gravitate to stories, to toys, to superheroes, all those kind of things. But now I believe business people can be superheroes in that sense, in that storytelling really is everything. It's what connects us, it's what binds us, it's what propels the world forward, and it's really what makes anyone do anything. Is the stories they tell themselves in their mind and the stories that we all share as a global kind of conscience.
You mentioned that you help create stories. And so I'm curious, are those personal stories that where I came from, my past? Are they like business related stories? What does that look like?
So it's all based on context and it's all of the above. So every brand has a story to tell, every founder has a story to tell, every person has a story to tell. Problem is, some people get lost in telling stories that just aren't interesting, that tell stories that other people have told or other brands have told before, tell stories that are boring, tell stories that don't stand out. And then the other subset is people don't have confidence in their own
Mm,
personal story very often because they've watched that movie before and over it's played in their minds. They say, well, that's regular to me. That's my life. That's not interesting. I'm
yeah.
so much more interested by what someone else had for breakfast or what someone else did or the degree someone else got or the mountain someone else climbed. So I like to remind businesses and brands and executives and teams that your personal experience, your stories, the things you've done do have merit. They are interesting, and I won't even stop short of saying they're actually going to probably be very fascinating to a lot of people. You just have to tell it in the right way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard through discussing struggles in our world that even if we were to all put our struggles or our background or our past, whatever, on a table and could have the opportunity to pick up somebody different, we would still pick up our own because we know it, we've lived it, we survived it, whatever that looks
Mhm.
like. So I don't want to take us down the survival path. I want to take us down the creative and fun storytelling. Um, Tell us, do you have any examples of how being a creative director in some of those larger companies what are some fun stories that you've been able to share with them?
Oh, well, before we got on the call, you said, hey, you've worked with Mucinex. How could you make Mucinex fun? So, backing up and my history as a creative director, as an agency person, I was a VP creative director of an international agency doing with 120 plus people at a 20-person team, give or take, working with some of the biggest brands in the world. That was 8 of the last 10 years. Before that, another 10 or so years in other agencies. And the blessing of it all is that I got to use my natural creative instinct and ability to be employed by. I got to do what I love.
That's not work, that's just fun, right?
It was definitely work,
I love it.
but it was fun work. Like we're
Yeah.
talking brainstorming, we're talking what ifs. Our whole day was around what if we did this? What if we told a story in this way? So back to the Mucinex thing. First of all, Mucinex is a massive brand in the US. We worked on Mucinex Canada, but we were very influenced by what they did in the US where they had Mr. Mucus. So
Uh-huh.
right off the bat, they had this character in a series of commercials that did all kinds of crazy and zany stuff. And like he was always the bad guy getting evicted from the lungs and all that kind of thing. So that was already a great premise. So what happened is we had an opportunity in Toronto at the Eaton Center, which is like the biggest mall in Canada, at the busiest time of the year. This is December 2019. So this is pre COVID. This is Christmas time. We had about 3 days to do an activation there. So we came up with this idea of literally, I guess what it was without the stories, people throwing snot balloons at targets.
Love it.
But how we wrapped that into a story was we said, come over here to our booth, our experience, and get it off your chest. And the idea was you can come in, write something, right? This is winter time. The days are short. People are
Yeah.
stressed. They're out there shopping because they're kind of forced to shop
Yeah.
for the holidays. And we knew people, the mood is obviously good for the holidays, but it's a tough month. It's a tough winter's tough in Canada. So we knew people would probably have stuff to get off their chest. So we offered them this cathartic experience where you would zip up in a hazmat suit, which soon became very infamous, like basically 1 or 2 months later across the world. We had them come right on the wall, say something you wanted to get off your chest. They would do that. They'd reach into buckets full of booger balloons, basically, of different colors and sizes, and just toss these at the wall, make a big splatter. Now, the underlying tone was that Mucinex obviously helps get mucus off your chest. But here
Yeah.
we are helping people get something off their mind and off their
Yeah.
chest in that literal and metaphorical sense. So
Yeah.
that is one example of how you can have fun with an expectorant.
That's great. I mean, and like you said, it had such an impact on the people that you were marketing to, your audience. And obviously, you can't show them the benefits of Mucinex as they walk by your booth. That's impossible. But for them to have that physical experience of throwing and getting something off your chest, that's really good. That's
Yeah.
creative. I love it.
And everyone who came out were like, that felt so good. And
Yeah.
and when you're wrapping up a recap video and people are coming out of your experience and saying that felt so good, and then your logo drops, it's a pretty good association.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So I can only assume that it was very successful and that everything went great. Fabulous. Oh, I love those stories.
We did overspray onto a TV, and company might still be in court on that one, but
Eh, what are you going to do?
accidents happen.
I was going to say, and you asked for forgiveness. And yeah, when those things, exactly. I get it. So you've been in creative storytelling for many, many years. I I know storytelling is different than play and playfulness, but at the same time, there's a lot of similarities there. Like,
Yep.
so where do you see the impact of disruptive storytelling on communication strategies?
So I actually approach it like DNA. Like your story is ingrained in you, and I put out this idea, and when I work with clients we try to look at what their disruptive DNA is, and that actually became a framework. So the framework is, what's your point of differentiation, what's your narrative, and what are the actions you're going to take and you want people to take when they come across your story. But backtracking for a second, storytelling is fun, right? Remember, for those people who remember having young kids, have young kids, mommy, just one more story, daddy, just one more story. And I made the joke yesterday on a podcast. I said, no child says, daddy, can you read me another spreadsheet?
That's right. Or PowerPoint presentation, please.
There you
Right.
go. So
Yeah.
stories capture the imagination. Stories capture the heart.
Yeah.
Stories paint pictures. Stories are memorable. And the most important thing is stories make you feel like you were there.
Mhm.
And you said something at the beginning of the show about like really getting to know someone, knowing their thoughts. That's what really good storytelling does. When you actually know your people, your person, your customer, your audience, your ideal client profile, whatever we want to call it, it's people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you know their psyche well enough, if you can actually tell a story that gets to the heart and soul of what they are thinking, whether it's the pain they're looking to solve, the joy they're trying to have, and all those other great things that are associated to feeling and memory, you're already going to be on track. And my biggest piece of advice is have fun with it first.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So, do you still work for large corporations? You do, don't you? You get contracted to come in and teach them how to tell stories.
That's it.
Can you give us any other examples of brand stories that you've been excited or proud of that have stuck with you?
So some stories don't even have words. Like I'm really proud of some of the work we've done for 3M in the past, where we had a chance to tell their Canadian story. And I won't get into the whole thing, but that led to a few videos that led to the tagline and the new story bleeding into every initiative they did. We've done really fun stuff for PepsiCo Foods, down to like Chester Cheetah walking you through a museum, because there was an overlap with the Cheetos. I think it was like Cheetos Museum, something like that, where you were looking. To this day, they do it where you're looking for the interesting Cheetos shapes, and
Yes.
you can actually like win a big prize if your shape looks like something. And I think
Yes.
there's still a Jumpman, a Michael Jordan shaped Jumpman Cheeto that has sold for thousands and thousands of dollars and is world famous. So
Yeah.
some of the fun stuff that I've worked on, one came to mind when I said stories don't always have to have words. So one fun thing, and again, we'll probably get off this call and I'll be like, oh no, I have another one, which I do. So remind me, say, Jeff, you have another one if I don't get to it. So one fun one I remember was we basically shot a music video for a paint preparation division. So here you are, we're trying to sell basically a paint gun system to auto body shops. On the surface, you're probably like, that's not so interesting. For a creative, we're like, whoa, shiny cars and garages, and that could be pretty cool. And then
Hmm.
we found out that the differentiator to then spark the narrative, the point of differentiation was that it could be sprayed from any angle. So you could turn it around, you could go under the car, under the door, from any angle, you could spray without any loss of pressure, accuracy, that kind of thing. So we said, well, what else? What else moves at any angle? Hey, really good, and I'm gonna not get the term right, but really good break dancers could move their body at any angle. So what we did is we got this concept of a crew of breakdancers who are very simply holding the product and twisting and contorting their bodies at any angle to show that you can still spray and tell that story. We rented a McLaren F1 supercar to have on set to be as if, as if we had painted it. We recruited top Canadian popping and breakdancing talent, and we even had a track custom recorded from a top Canadian artist. So it was a really nice intertwined story that became a 30-second and a 45-second spot where there wasn't any words in it. It was just music
Hmm.
and vibes, but it told a story.
I
So
love it.
stories don't always need words. The words, the three words that were in that entire spot were keep it flowing. And the idea was that if you could spray from any angle, you're going to save time. So you're going to keep the cash flowing, the paint flowing, and the customers flowing. Maybe not in that order. I think we said it better. I think we said you can keep the paint flowing, the customers flowing, and the cash flowing.
Right.
So really cool story. And 3M was so impressed by it, they actually changed their budget allocation. So they took away budget from media to put more into creative. And that's almost unheard of. Usually it's like a 70-30 split.
Right.
70% of the budget usually goes to the media,
Hmm.
30 to creative. I think it ended up a 60-40 or 50-50 split because they believed in the idea so much and had to find the money somewhere. And it was so successful that divisions from across the world in the same kind of paint preparation and an auto body division said, can we use that? Can we use that for our market? So that's the kind of fun. Another fun project that comes to mind, you don't have to remind me or remember, was like a superhero, like an office superhero we came up with called the SEPA colleague. So if you know Cepacol, the throat
Mhm,
lozenge,
mhm.
we said, again, this is how stories develop. We said, hey, every office has that person who has the medicine cabinet in their drawer. They're a great colleague. Well, what if we took the word Cepacol, stretched it into SEPA colleague, and at the very sign of anyone with a raspy throat, she springs into action. So we record a really fun spot for that. And yeah, got to make a real life superhero. So I guess everything came full circle.
That's amazing. Those are great stories. Thank you for sharing. Now, I'm sure there's been times that it wasn't a great fit for the story or it didn't land right, or maybe you were working with a team and I imagine you always work with creatives. And so normally they're always advocates for fun and enlightenment. But have there been times that there's been detractors that have pulled
Um,
away?
you know what? I don't remember any big flops in market.
Okay.
What I do remember is all those idea babies hitting the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
And there are so many good ideas that never got to see the light of day
Mm.
because either budget wasn't there, client didn't believe in it, might not have been the right idea or the right time. As I've gotten more experience, I realized, hey, maybe that was our fault. Maybe we didn't tell a good enough story to why they should take a risk on whatever we were presenting. Some stuff we were over the moon about, and I'm talking every agency I've been at, and you're just like, they're gonna love this, they gotta go for this, and they just didn't. So that would be the biggest disappointment I think any agency person would tell you, is that their favorite ideas didn't get built, or the ideas that actually got built actually had potential, didn't extend the way you
Mm.
would have hoped and thought. So to follow up on the SEPA colleague, do you know when that went to market?
I'm going to guess COVID.
It was like fall, early fall or late winter
Mm.
2019, early 2020.
Yeah.
This was a spot of an office worker helping their colleagues.
Yeah.
Everyone went home. So we're like,
Yeah.
oh no. So obviously we could have come back with the SEPA colleague working from home. Maybe now she delivers or drop ships or does whatever she does.
Yeah.
Like there's different angles you could take, but you're just not going to go there anymore. So those things kind of fall off the map when the world falls off the map. And also, Supercall probably actually saw big gains in sales in
Right.
COVID for people's throats and this and that. And no one wanted to cough at the supermarket, so
Yeah.
it's almost like you didn't need advertising then
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
and that's a testament to you don't, even though you got the best ideas and you've got everybody on board, sometimes something else happens that you had no control over and you couldn't have seen coming. So you didn't know, but yet you still saw, or the company still saw value because the ad was out there, the work was done, and
So
yeah.
that's a great point. I mean, we don't know anything, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to go to market and our direct competitor just happened to come up with the same or similar idea and gets to market at the same time. I think I saw that recently, or it happened to us or something like that. Like the risk is always out there. You don't know what's going to happen in the world. What I've learned, like in my podcast, one of my early episodes was with Jason Bagley, and he is one of the former top creatives at Wyden Kennedy Portland, who worked on accounts like Old Spice,
Yeah.
Nike, Upwork. Actually, Upwork might have been later on for him, but he, in my eyes and many people's eyes, is like a legendary creative director from the last 15 years. And what he impressed on me was that it's a bigger risk to take no risks for a brand and a personal brand, and this really extends. And the idea behind it was is that unless you've done something really stupid, really offensive, the world's going to forget about it anyway. But they're going to forget about your boring initiative right off the bat. So you are better off to go down in flames. Again, we are putting aside anything that gets you in trouble. We're just saying, hey, an idea that you went for that just didn't land, it is going to go off into the ether, but it might actually catch fire. Whereas if you're spending your budget on something that just doesn't capture attention, so I talk a lot about contrast, connection, and conversion. If it doesn't capture attention through your point of differentiation, through your disruption, through your pattern breaking, you're dead in the water right there. Then, if you actually have people's attention, and you don't connect, that's the next level of storytelling. Like, you can grab attention. How do you now keep it and convert it? So I really like that idea. And I really encourage anyone who's listening who has any say on what a brand or personal brand or company puts out into the world, take bigger risks for sure. Don't mess up, don't get yourself in trouble, but take that risk to tell a story that's unexpected. Take that risk to tell a story that's a little bit more fun than you're used to.
Yeah.
Take a risk to really get into the heads of the people you're trying to appeal to and say, what would make them stop and say, wow, I want to watch that again.
I love it. Tell us about a pivotal moment in your career that kind of influenced your approach to storytelling.
That's a nice one. Pivotal moment. I think here was an interesting shift for me. So I learned illustration and design. I was going to be the comic book artist. Back in the day, I thought I was going to spray paint like or airbrush, do airbrush art of cars and intricate stuff like that. I thought that was going to be the career path. Now you can prompt that in like 2 seconds. No one saw that coming. But the pivotal moment for me, less career wise, more just directionality, is I said, wow, I think I love words even more. So to this day, like I drew that probably 20 years ago, maybe more. I don't want to admit. So that's like a photoreal drawing done in pencil when I actually had focus and I didn't have a phone that I was looking at every every 20 minutes.
Right.
But the point was is I fell in love more with the stories behind the creative, how it comes together, how we build up the story to sell it internally, sell it to a client, sell it to the general public. So I loved the idea from the get go of commercial arts, right? I didn't go into fine arts, I went into creative arts and commercial arts. And the pivotal moment for me is when I kind of put down the mouse, right? Put down the Wacom. Like I used to, my first
Mhm.
X amount of years in my career, I was doing illustration, I was doing design, I did t-shirts that were sold at race car events. I did all over patterns for companies that sold children's pajamas and sleepwear across the USA. I did straight up graphic design, but I was always more fulfilled, or I realized I was more fulfilled being on that stage per se,
Mm.
talking with the client, getting the right brief, coming up with ideas. Literally, even with the SEPA colleague idea, I remember it was like 6:30 p.m. on a Thursday, thinking about it, thinking about it. I came out of the office. I said, I got it. I'm like, the SEPA colleague. Am I right? Am I right? And I
And the
remember
crowd goes wild.
there was like two people in the office, and I think one of
Yeah.
them was changing the waste baskets. And I was like, that's a good idea, right? So there's nothing more fun than the words to me that bring the story together. And then we worry about what it looks like. Then we worry about making it come to life. And you'll see, like I said before, sometimes the best creative has no words at all, but
Mm.
there was a lot of words spoken to get there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And thank you for sharing. When you started talking about how, stories are told differently now, we have our iPhones, and it reminded me, I've been cleaning out of the house because kids are going to graduate soon. And a photo album filled with pictures, and probably 50% of them are blurry or the side of somebody's face, but because that was the only way we could capture images
Mhm.
back then, you still save the picture because and it tells more of the story of what was really happening in that instance than what we have now. We take 4 or 5 on our iPhones, and then we delete the bad ones and keep the take out the ones with
Oh,
someone's
oh,
with their eyes closed.
you actually delete them?
Yes. Well, not all of them, just the extra
There's
ones that
there's
I
actually there's actually
yeah,
apps for that.
I'm sure there
But
are,
isn't it
yeah.
funny? So like they say, pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? And the funny part is raising a young daughter, I'm trying to be present, but I'm also trying to capture the moment. Now, let's put aside all the times I get distracted on my phone like every other parent, but I've tried to purposely take the one or two photos that remind me of the happening, whatever we were doing, maybe a video or two. And I really try my best to not let that rob me from the actual experience. Because the reality, when you're looking at a photo that you took, is that moment was you looking at it through a camera or you thinking about lining up a camera or pressing a button. So there's a little bit of a meta story happening there because the reality is you were taking a photo in that moment. But if you capture the essence of this scene, you can say, oh, wow, that day at the trampoline place was really fun. That picnic was awesome. Remember
Yeah,
when we did this? So
yeah.
I really try to capture enough that lets the picture or the quick video do the talking and then actually be there to experience the story happening itself.
And that leads me to another question that you may have already given us the answer to, but have you had an unexpected source of inspiration that fuels your creative strategies?
Everything.
Nice.
Everything can be inspiration if you open your mind to it. And I get my most of my inspiration when I'm trying to solve a problem. So that's why creatives like a really good brief. And like they say, good brief in, like they say, like crap in, crap out. The reverse is true also. Like great in, great out. And if you have a really good brief, a really great brief in front of you, that really captures the insight and the strategy and the shift you want to make in people's minds to actually have them take action on whatever you're trying to sell. My mind works at it. And it's always those moments in the shower, on a drive. Like, do you know how many drives to golf I had this summer where I said, Siri, take a note because I was going to forget this fleeting thought. So creatives' brains work differently in that it's in the quiet, it's in the peace where our brains, this is a podcast about play,
Yeah.
where our brains can play. They have the freedom to play. And the one big piece of advice I'd give people is don't edit too early.
Mm,
So that's another Jason Bagleyism where he says quantity over quality. Actually, quantity breeds quality.
mhm.
And the idea is idea, 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 idea. So you asked about inspiration. Go get as much inspiration as you can. So I showed you some action figures before. We actually, that was actually a flop. Once we did actually pitch an action figure idea to a company and they hated it. so,
Oh,
so there you go. That was a flop. But the idea is like, wait, what if we made an action figure of that? Oh, you look there, you say, hey, here's a wood table. Is there a story to be told in carpentry that could like, tell our story?
yeah.
I see a barbell or a dumbbell over there. Hey, what if our main hero was like leaving the gym and this happened? Like whatever it is. So inspiration is everywhere. I would not edit or evaluate too early. I would throw ideas, throw ideas, throw ideas. Then, when the time comes, say, which of these are actually good?
Mhm,
Which of these fit together? Which of these don't belong? Which of these should we push forward and really kind of see where it can go? Usually, a good idea is when the signs or the hallmark of a good idea is when people are really scared of it. But really, it's when people say, "Whoa, I can see that," or "Oh yeah," and if your idea spawns um, improv, people say, "Yes, and we could do this." Oh, and we could do that. Oh my God, that's going to be so cool. I think you're onto something, but you still might be too much in a safe zone because if everyone agrees, you're not disruptive enough, you're not scary enough. So that's just the
Yeah.
caveat in there. But it's always a good place to start to see, does everyone light up? Does everyone get excited about the idea? Can you explain it in a sentence that actually makes people feel something? Then make it more disruptive from there.
Nice. So, what's on the horizon for you? Where are you going to disrupt next?
So now it's funny. So everything you mentioned at the beginning, I'm still doing creative direction, I'm doing consulting, and I'm doing coaching. So I'm really bringing it all together under my disruptive influence banner. The whole premise for my podcast is around talking to disruptors and influencers in their industry, or actually, I like to say, brilliant minds who are disrupting and influencing their industry in their way. And the idea for the podcast name came for how I was branded in high school. It said disruptive influence in class. And I just felt it was better not to call the podcast shit disturber or the hallway walker.
Right, exactly.
so, so
Troublemaker, right?
yeah, there you go. So, that whole disruptive influence stuck with me. I said, wow, that's a really good marketing term. So, as risky as it was to go with a word that's a little bit overused now, disruption and disruptive, I thought it was still very pertinent and the story was baked in. This
Yes.
is the troublemaker, the person who thought things people didn't think and said things people either didn't think or just were too smart, too scared to say, did things people wouldn't have done. I said that's what brands have to do. You have to first disrupt to influence outcomes.
Yeah.
So if we point back to my disruptive DNA, where again, to answer the question, I do coaching, I do consulting, I do story strategy, I do workshops. So it might sound like a lot, but it's all under the guise of storytelling that stands out, disruptive storytelling. And then there's different pillars to that. So how that all comes together is just reminding businesses, brands, executive, people going up on stage, there's always a story to tell. Can you find the differentiating factor that actually stands out? What's your narrative going to be? Now, how do you actually talk about it? What does it look like on your slides? Where are you telling it? In what context are you telling it? How are you telling it? And what action are you hoping to get from people? So just in that framework, it applies to pretty much everything I do, whether it's creative direction for a brand, whether I'm helping someone with their personal brand, whether I'm helping a founder, executive, or CEO address their team, go to an investors meeting, go to a podcast, come up on stage and give a presentation, or I'm helping teams even just tell short stories to their executives, which I'm literally working on now with a massive company.
Nice.
So storytelling just bleeds into everything. The trick, though, for me is to tie it to business and to tie it to outcomes. So I say, I help you craft and tell stories that sell. And I remind people that stories better told are stories better sold. So I'm in that angle of tying stories to sales. And I like to call it even like revenue driving storytelling, because I think that's what really moves the needle. Otherwise, it's just fluff. And in the creative industry, we need stories to sell our products. It's a little bit more nuanced when you're talking to learning and development leads,
Mhm.
executives, founders, coaches. They're saying, okay, cool with the storytelling. How's that going to help my business? Well, let me show you how.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. That's where we come into with the creativity piece of let me show. And the mindset is so stark of if it doesn't fit in this little box, then it can't be beneficial to my business. Well, in actuality, it's very beneficial to the business, to the teams, etc. So, two final questions that I ask all my guests are: number one, you have a toolkit that you've been assembling all of your career with various tips and tricks along the way. What's one of those tools that you could share with our audience today?
Be yourself to a huge degree. It's just so
Nice.
much easier to maintain. Again, don't get in trouble, but be
It's
I've been in
push.
my share of trouble. But the
Mhm.
idea is first be yourself. Lean into your instincts and intuition. number one, when we're talking about play, when we're talking about creativity, if it sparks joy in you, it's probably going to spark joy in other like minded people. So if you are working in advertising, you're working in branding, try please to have the clients and try to work with the brands and try to work at the companies that actually light your soul on fire for what you're selling. If not, make sure that you light a fire under what storytelling can do for you and how storytelling can actually change the trajectory of whatever brand, whatever business you're working on. But do that from this place where the fire burns in you first, because it's going to show in the work, it's going to show in the outcome. So really find your light. I think is what I would wrap that up in, and be yourself.
Nice. Thank you so much. And I think you can tell by my background what lights me up or some fun Lego
I,
bricks. When was the last time you played with Legos?
I actually played with Legos very recently. We were at the mall and there was a little Lego activity for back
Hmm.
to school. So this was like 2 weeks ago. And my daughter went in and she built a little, it was like a little, it was a little model of colored pencils in a little case. So
Nice.
you built the four pencils in the different
Oh,
colors. You built a little kind of holder around it. You slid
yeah.
them in, and you were good
Ah,
to go. So
love it.
that is the last time, 2 weeks ago.
Good for you. And I'll encourage you anytime the kids want to play with Legos, get down on the ground and build with them. And the communication that comes through that is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Not about me. Today it's about Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have been a pleasure. I love all of the things that you shared with us about storytelling and owning who we are, push it, take risks, but be nice, don't be ugly or mean or break any rules, nothing like that. It's been such a joy having you today. Thank you so much. Folks, thanks for joining us for Play for Performance. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for the chance to come on.
That's a wrap on another episode of Play for Performance. I hope today's conversation sparked some ideas for how you can bring more joy and engagement into your workplace. Remember, transforming workplace culture doesn't happen overnight, but every small step toward play and connection makes a difference. Try one thing we discussed today, even something small, and see what happens. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a little more play in their professional life. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations with incredible guests who are changing the game of workplace engagement. Have a guest suggestion or want to share your own play at work story? Reach out to me at Jolynn at elevateyourtalent.co or find me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from you. Until next week, keep playing, keep performing, and remember, work doesn't have to be taken seriously to be serious. This has been Play for Performance. I'm Jolynn Ledgerwood, and I'll see you next time.